So, welcome everybody. It's a pleasure to receive you here for another meeting of the Bridge project. And it's been quite a successful sequence of events that we, along with CIX, that we are promoting in the last months. Okay, let me introduce myself. I am Sergio Fernandes. I work for ISIC as a volunteer. I work mainly with translations, and I started volunteering in 2009. And ever since, it's been quite a rewarding experience for me. Okay, so once again, welcome you all. I know that many of you are already acquainted. You already know many of the basic principles of conscientiology, but only to reinforce our purpose here, please do not believe in anything you hear, see, read, or by all means, don't believe in anything you see here, okay? Have your own experiences, all right? Well, next, we are to present this theme, this very curious word, holocracy. What is all about this? I confess I'm rather curious how to create organizations based on the next stage of human consciousness. Not only generally speaking, about human consciousness, but many problems that we have today, such as so-called wicked problems, problems that are too complex to tackle with old ways of thinking, could be linked to this thing. And even so, it could even lead to alternative solutions, because complexity is increasing. Find a certain problem, the problem has already unfolded and developed into another kind of problem that has very little to do with the original problem. So it's quite an interesting theme. Once again, I thank you all for being present here. And we will introduce you to our friend, Douglas Penna. Douglas is currently living in London. He's a data scientist there. And he will talk with us about this very interesting theme. I hope you don't have any concern regarding time. I know it's short time, but it doesn't mean that a lack of time would lead to a superficial analysis, okay? So, Douglas, okay? Everybody listening, okay? Now it's up to you, Douglas, okay?
Thanks very much, Sergio. Hi, everyone. Yeah. I'm Douglas, as Sergio were talking there. And I'm glad that everyone came here so we can discuss and share our experience and knowledge about this subject. Although Sergio meant, it's a new word and etc., but I think that maybe a lot of those concepts maybe with you for the majority of your life. You always thought about doing something like this, or you're always expecting the organizations that you belong to behave and to act similar to the actions and techniques that I'm going to describe over here. So let's just go over the main topic that we're going to talk about today. We have a limited amount of time, so I'll try to use it wisely. So first of all, I'll talk about some definitions around the topic about holocracy. Later after that, I'm going to just give a quick summary of the types of organizations that we have over time, from prehistorical military organizations until we got to nowadays with these more complex organizations. Then we're going to talk about some examples. There are a lot of examples, but I chose two to talk about in more detail and a couple of others just to show you the picture. And I'm going to talk about some common misconceptions that people have around the topic. And after that, questions and answers. If you have any questions, you can interrupt me anytime. Just unmute your mic But if you think these questions might better be answered during the debate, I would ask you to write it down so we can explore it further during the next session. All right? So, as Sergio was talking previously, the belief principle, do not believe in what you hear here. Especially in management sciences, management, everything around management, you have to be double extra careful because there's a lot of buzzwords over there. There's a lot of hype, and everything must be passed not only by reason, but using other bodies that we own. So that's one of the main topics and the main differences in Holocracy compared to different models. I hope by the end we'll be able to have a clear picture of that. So this talk is based mainly on two books. One of them is the first one by Frédéric Laloux. He's a French guy, very, very nice person, I would say. And he traveled around the world for a couple of years, trying to understand this type of organization, because he was looking around and in his opinion, the types of organizations that were common out there were not enough to help solve some problems that Sergio was mentioning. So he started looking, he started searching, and he wrote up a couple of good practices that he found amongst the companies that he searched around the world. And there's a lot of companies out there that uses those techniques, and well, most of them don't know each other. And the other one is Holocracy. Is this small book here from Brian Robertson, and tries to put into words and to something that is very specific and very detailed what a Holocracy model might be. It's more focused on the processes and on the distribution of power. And the first one is more focused on the culture change, the differences in terms of traits, in terms of goals and values in organization and people. So first thing, all those organizations, it's interesting because they emerged around the globe from 1950, 1940 something. And after that, they just pop up in one country, in another, and they keep changing, they keep appearing. And it's not like there's a central leader, a central hub where people, okay, I propose this model, let's use it around the world. It's just people trying to work out things differently. And it's interesting because most of them came to the same solutions or the same set of solutions with small differences depending on the culture. So as I'm choosing here, for those who are not familiar with, the one in the left is Newton, the one on the right is Leibniz. And a couple of years ago, there was an exchange of letters in the beginning of the implementation discovery of calculus. And there was a fight between who came first. Oh, it was me. No, it was you. And there was a fight over that. And I don't think that quite fits what's happening over here. So you have models in Australia, you have models in Germany, in France, in the United States, across many countries, even in Brazil, you know? And it's interesting because most of the companies, they don't know that there are others that think like them. So what are the bases, the core of those self-organizing organizations, those new types of organizations? So one of the base principles is self-management. And when you talk about self-management, you're talking about trust. So you trust that the people in your organization, they're going to take the best decision. They're going to understand what's happening. They're going to try to present solutions and interact with the people that they know can help them better decide and achieve what needs to be done. And what needs to be done? There's no plan, no predefined plan. Okay, so they have to understand what's happening and try to respond to that in a more fluid, natural way. Therefore, it's hard to have a job title. It's hard to have a fixed role. and things evolve a lot over time. And in times of crisis, it's even better and even easier to face those issues and find creative solutions that can help everyone in the process. If you take a look at the common organization that we have today, we have, in theory, a structure that resembles what you see in the left. It's like a pyramidal structure where you have the CEO or the partners or anyone that has a lot of power, and they design a vision, they design a strategy, and you have a lot of people below them that goes there to control and to manage whoever is on the bottom. There are people that actually do the job. So, this is in theory, but in practice, what really happens is something a bit different. So you have this guy over here on the top that plays golf with a couple of different people across the company. So they are quite friends, and this way they have some advantages over the others. You have people that hate each other among the infrastructure. So whenever they are providing feedback, it's full of hatred and not thinking about the company or what needs to be done, or there's some manipulation over there. So it's kind of a mess. And whenever they redesign it and they try to disarticulate this infrastructure and remove the person and try to move to something different that resembles more a graph infrastructure. Imagine that this is a company, right? So you have roles in the company that they interconnect with each other in a more complex system. If you would have an analogy, a metaphor for that, I would say that it would be more similar to a living organism where you have a lot of different cells and tissues and organs working together, in contrast with the other type of organization where you have that operates like a machine, where someone at the top pull a lever and everyone at the bottom just work like a cog, you know, and goes there and do what's expected from them and do what's designed in order for them to do. So one of the models that try to achieve that is one proposed by Holocracy that tries to structure that. So instead of having this, can you see the mouse on my screen here? Sergio, can you see the mouse on my screen or not?
Yes. Yeah, it's okay.
Cool. So if you look here on the right, you have the common pyramid structure, but Holocracy tries to change that for roles. So each one of those roles here is like one activity, something that needs to be done, a task. And then you have people that, okay, I want to do this role too. So one role can be shared amongst different people. And then you have a subset of roles. Okay, those roles here, they are kind of connected. So, okay, the guy who needs to go on Facebook, try to see what's there, and then people think about strategies regarding those users. So this subcircle would be the digital advertising. And you have the bigger circle that would be the marketing department. So it's not that there's no structure, but you redesign that structure so you distribute the power over the entire organization. And you don't empower people. You just make everyone more powerful. And last in the condition of a victim, that they need to be delivered power. Another point of those organizations is wholeness. So whenever you go to work today, there's kind of a mask that you do, so you don't go yourself completely into work. So the idea behind these two organizations is that you can be yourself there too. So your work must be close to your personal values about what you need to do in the world. There are a lot of practices to try to reduce ego and to try to maintain people focused on what needs to be done for the company. There's space for intuition, gut feeling, parapsychism, and a lot of safe space where people don't need to be afraid to make a mistake. They can experiment, they can try different things, and so on. if you think about it, in common culture, in common companies today, you have more of the picture in the left, where you have to be rational, you have to be concise, you have to have this idea, those metrics, and act accordingly. You don't have emotions, you don't have any of those traits here that you see, for instance, in a common concentrogram graph, where you have different aspects of your personality, of your ego, of your consciousness, and then you have different numbers in each one of them. There's no space for that. But in those two organizations, they try to tend more to the right side of the screen. And the last pillar of those organizations are the evolutionary purpose. They are soulful organizations, and they try to always give an impact to the world. They try to do things differently. And it's the way of thinking that profit, it's not the focus. Profit, it's a consequence of what you do in the company. There are a lot of examples, we're gonna go after that, but it's interesting because whenever you talk to the people that are behind those companies, they don't care much if they're going to do something that is like a buzzword, or there will be a product that will sell overnight. They're not thinking about that. They're trying to do something different. If they can do it, that's fine, you know? If they cannot, well, that's not that fine, but at least they try, you know? And in this infrastructure, it's something that is interesting because it's the closest that I've faced that is to a maxi-praxis system. So you have a lot of different organizations around the world. Each organization have a particular role that it has to fulfill. So for instance, today, on organizations, you have the leaders, someone that's spotless, is flawless, and he knows the future, and you guide the company to get to that future. And if he's a good leader, he will make everyone follow his steps, and people will follow his steps and learn and be like him. And I think it's kind of a legacy from previous models that we have in the past, and I hope that we can change that to a company where this type of interaction is more possible, where you have more helpers, helping people all across the organization, trying to give them ideas and try to help them solve their own personal issues to be more full and be more complete in the roles that they go inside the company. So let's take a quick look on the organizations over time. And this way we can understand how those types of organizations, they evolve until now. So I'm using the table that Frederico Alu provided in the book Reinventing Organizations. And if you read the book, it's a quite good book, but he has like a mystic background, and I will apologize for that. If you say a look at the colors like red, amber, orange, green, and teal, but to be very honest, they are very easy to memorize. And once you understand this, it's easier to make the proper classification. So first thing about this organization, this is not about the bad are in the top and the good are in the bottom. How I would describe it, it's the increasing complexity where the least complex organizations are in the top and the more complex organizations are in the bottom. So let's start with the first one, the red organizations. That's more like a response, impulsive organization type. And that was needed back then when we need, for instance, to defend ourselves against a common enemy. We need to defend, organize ourselves as a tribe to defend against for a particular animal, a particular predator, or even another tribe that was trying to destroy us or trying to attack us. So in this type of infrastructure, you have literally a leader, someone that is strong, someone that sparks confidence, and that leader points the direction. Okay, do this, do that. And this is quite useful. And for instance, whenever imagine that you have a situation in police, in security. If something happens, the the type of organization that people will have in that moment is the red. Imagine that you have a surgery and something is happening to the heart of the patient. The doctors say, do this, do that. The nurse will not be saying, why do you want to do this? Is this together with my personal purpose? No, you must react. So that's the kind of organization that this is. Then they move to amber organizations. So they got literally the red organizations and they assigned a role to it. So imagine that those tribal organizations, they evolved for an organized infrastructure like the military or the Catholic Church, that you have the priests, the father, and then you have the bishops, you have the cardinals, you have the pope. So you have a clear structure or how things get from the top, and then they are divided across the organizations. And monarchy is something that is very similar to this. So you have something that is like a birthright or a title, and the title talks a lot. So if you have the title, then you have the respect. And if you don't have the title, then why you have liberty to even talk at all? So it's more like this. Then from that type of organizations, you move to orange organizations. And orange organizations are the ones that we are used to have. So it's more that you have meritocracy, you have innovation, and you have teams that organize over central goals, and they try to achieve those goals. And you'll see that in a lot of companies today. I think you don't need many examples. But from that type of organizations, there are a lot of things that happen to our role, like, okay, we have to have profit, we have to make money, and then out of that, we destroy the globe, we pollute it, we overuse resources because we are not thinking straight. We're only thinking on the company, on the results of the company, on the profit that are going to make today. So, okay, this is not working. And usually what happens when you have a change in pattern, you literally go for the other side. It's like a reflex. So people started to design green organizations. And you know what? This type of organization is just poisonous. I don't want that. So everybody will have the same power. People will have the same voice. We're gonna talk until we hit a consensus, and then we do something about it. And often the metaphor that goes against it is the family. So everybody in the family has a voice, everybody can see, so you can go in the family, you know you'll be loved, you'll be cared, and that's how it works more in the green. But there's something bad about this approach, is that I have two bosses. One is from Norway, and the other one is from Sweden. And they always say, oh, but we spend so much time trying to reach a consensus that we cannot do anything at all at the end. So this provided the organization for the T organizations. Okay, we don't need to empower people. We just need to make them more powerful, each one of them. So they have to be managed themselves. They don't need to have someone giving them something. And there's always this connection between the life purpose, the purpose of the organization, and the role. So some examples, trying to finish this so we can go to the questions and answers. One of them, first of them, is a Bootswag. People from Germany helped me out on this one. But this is a nursing company. It started a few years ago because in medical care, because of the orange paradigm, people start to chronometrate everything. Okay, you spend 15 seconds giving an injection, 2 minutes giving hearing to a patient, or he has to say. So let's chronometrate and put metrics everywhere so this can achieve better results, right? No, wrong. Because whenever you're talking about personal care, about helping people, the first thing that you need to do is to listen to them. And those people, they became nurses in the first place to help people. And the way orange organizations were treating them were driving both nurses and patients insane. So this is not working. The nurse didn't hear me at all. He didn't need to hear what I had in problems. So they changed that. They started to hear more the patients, and they created a lot of small groups. what you see there is one group of Butzor. So this group, it takes care of a whole neighborhood of patients in Germany, and they can talk with other groups that are created, and by having this autonomous decision method, they were able to provide good solutions and to help people over. So in just a few years, they came from 0 to have like 60 to 70% of market share in terms of homemade care. And what is interesting is because they spend more time with the patient actually got better sooner and did not went back to have problems again. And their nurses, they have their life purpose returned. They could, okay, now I can help people again. There are a couple of other examples. This is, I'm sorry if someone cannot see it, but it's a long list. And from those lists, just to make an idea, because, well, we have schools, we have blue-collar companies, we have tomato industrial companies, clothing companies, we have all sorts of jobs, from very small companies to very large ones that operates with millions of dollars per year. And one of them I like to talk about in more details, that's Heiligenfeld. Heiligenfeld is a mental health care institution in Germany. And since they have this holistic approach and every team, every person there is self-manageable, they do not need to follow protocol. So one of the healthcare persons that they identified that one of the patient had a lot of psychic abilities, but he couldn't manage them. So this turned the person into a crazy person. So for the health recovery process, it indicate, okay, you need to go there, develop your own parapsychism. We'll help you with your depression, but you're going to train your parapsychism. And according to them, training the parapsychism was one of the most important things in her recovery. So this is possible because they are not like following a protocol that needs to fit in a achievement organization. And there are some common misconceptions as well. Sergio, do you have still time?
I think we can afford a couple of minutes more. Please go on. It's very interesting.
Okay, so there are a couple of misconceptions. I just need 2 more minutes, I think. One, there's no structure, no management, and no leadership. So, okay, everybody go there, it's happy, everybody just do whatever they please. It's not like that. If you want to go further and explore this more, I recommend you to read the Holocracy book or the Reinventing Organizations, but there is a clear, structured way where the information flows around the company and where the problems, the solutions, the roles, and the responsibilities, they flow, they are created, and they are destroyed over time in a more intelligent way. Because how it's done today, you have some managers and some directors that they set up the goals for the year or for 2 years time, and then after 2 years, they're going to revise that. That's too long, that's too much time. So, okay, we need something to respond quicker. And that's the alternative, that's the proposal of those organic systems. Another common misconception is that everyone is equal. That's not correct. Everyone has a particular role. So there are some people that, okay, this guy, he has more experience than me, he has more knowledge than me. I respect him as a person because I know that whenever he's going to talk with me, it's going to help myself, you know? So there are clear differences in people's roles. There are people that, okay, I'm a tech guy, but I need a salesperson. So whenever there are some problems involved, we need to consult and connect with the proper persons. So although there's power everywhere, it's not about everyone is equal. This is a problem from the green organizations where, okay, they focus on distributing the power and not on focusing on making everyone powerful by design. It's not like, okay, I'm the boss and I'm so good, but so good that I'm going to give you power. It's not about that. The infrastructure has to be designed so everyone has the real power to do this, whatever they need. And this infrastructure is not just about empowerment. It's not that. It's not, oh, but it's similar to this or that. Okay, we don't give power. People already have power. But the main differences about those two organizations is about the life achievements, is about the very similar names and definitions against proaxis, and what the person needs to do in their life, about the purpose of the organization. The organization has a purpose, and people have to sense and perceive that purpose to go into that direction. And the last one is that it is to experiment. Oh, it's a good idea, but it'll never work in practice. That's wrong. It's been there for almost 60 years right now, and it's been experimented in a lot of different places all over the decades. And it's not that we have to have like 100 years or 200. If the system has 200 years, it would be already old. But it has evidence to support that this is a working system. But this system is not a panacea. This is not the answer to all problems. Oh, I want to work like this, but my organization behaves more like orange today. Okay, you don't need to have a teal organization, but you can operate from each one of the types of organizations, amber, orange, green, and try to apply more and more of those principles so people can do whatever they need to do. They can do whatever they feel it's important to do. So that's something that I like to finish with. So thank you, Sergio, for this extra time. I think now we're open for questions and answers.
Okay, folks. So by now, many of you should be with some questions. Please feel free to ask Douglas. Okay. As a man of letters, I'm a little bit biased by words like this, system. And at some point, I guess that it's a buzzword, because from this input output, it's a system, and the whole universe is a system. So I would like to ask, how do we deal to limit this concept? Because it's so vast, so wide, that it can end up being useless. Okay, is it clear?
Yeah, I think so, because we need to go to set up some boundaries and to define some principles. And by those principles, you try to define some actions. So the way it properly works is that you don't try to create a set of rules from the beginning. For instance, Holocracy 1 has a constitution, some basic sets of rules and some things that you can cling on, and then you start creating and iterating and going on and setting the limits yourself. So it's something that you can do in whatever organization that you are. So at the moment that you go there and you create the roles, and people can assign those roles to themselves and understand that there's a clear separation of who they are and what the roles are. And whenever they understand that, it makes easier for the actions to go. It makes easier to take better decisions. I apologize for using the word system because my background is as an engineer. So I see everything as a system. So a living system, a living organism, everything is a system to me. But there are some of the points in this model, this way of doing things, that they cannot be imposed. So for instance, imagine that you want to do this in your current organizations. You cannot say, hey, Sergio, now you'll be working with Holocracy, and now you'll be working is this distributive model, and that's it. There's no turning back. You cannot impose that. It's something that, okay, guys, you want to do like this? Okay, I like this. This is something that I would like to work with. And then you start from that and start to define whatever needs to be defined for your particular case. Does that make sense?
Perfectly. So the key concept is don't impose any rule from the beginning, all right?
Correct.
Be flexible, observe which kind of patterns can arise and adapt to them, all right?
Exactly, because the main thing about this is evolution. And one of the common forgettable things about evolution is not that it's just, okay, evolution means to be better. And evolution means to the fittest survivors. It's not just that. Evolution main focus is change. Is people, okay, people can change. And in these holocratic models, the idea is that people can change faster. And if they can change faster, they can respond faster. But to be very honest, there will be a point in every holocratic organization that people won't understand how things are being solved. They just know that things are being solved and that the organization is surviving and evolving.
Perfect answer. Okay.
Thank you.
He is available for any other questions.
Any other questions?
At ease.
I have
Okay.
a question, Christoph. What I learned about big companies, for example, is that you have different people with different needs on different levels of the hierarchy. And I can understand that the model that you propose here can be implemented for people with a certain level of personal development where they have needs that go into self-actualization and growth. But a lot of people with maybe simpler and repetitive jobs, they are on a different level of need and they are not so interested in self-development.
Correct.
And in my experience, many people, on simpler levels with lower payment also, they are not so motivated out of themselves and they really call for a boss who tells them what to do. And if you tell them, hey, you're free, do your job as you will, they begin to be very aggressive and not playing the game. How would you address that?
I can give you the example of Favi. Favi is a brass company that they produce forks, automotive forks for the market. And they've been working as a metallurgy for a couple of decades. And they changed it to a holocratic model in 1987 or 1990 something. And they had the same issues that you're presenting right now. They had a pyramidal infrastructure where you have a lot of managers going there over the employees trying, you have to do this, you have to do that. And what happens with the employees when you have managers with that position? They tend to lower the bar. Okay, I know that there will be this guy that is going to keep annoying me to do this and to do that. So if I can do 10, I'm going to tell him that I can do 3. So if anything happens, I have like some fat to burn. I have a gap that I can fill and still deliver what I promised. And what happened in Favi? In Favi, it's a family business. So one of the previous owner died and the new owner assumed. And he went there, what was there for like a week or something, and they, you know what, everybody, listen, all those KPIs, all those metrics, forget them. From now on, you are the ones that will be in charge of this company. You are going to organize yourselves. You're going to set up the metrics, set up what needs to be done, and it's on you. So try to discuss among yourselves and come up with a solution for that. It was like that. He completely lose his power over the people that he was employing. And for a lot of people that were very surprised by that, it actually worked. So people that before they were behaving exactly like you are describing, because I've seen this as well. So they were behaving exactly like you're describing, and over time, they started to believe in themselves. They started to challenge themselves. For instance, one example, or two maybe, there was this requests that came from an automobile company, I don't remember which one, and they did not have address it. But then they organized themselves, they discussed if it was possible, and then they worked over hours without getting extra hours for that, just to deliver what they were challenged by the client. And this happens in other areas as well. So when you say that to me, I would be a little bit skeptical based on the data. But there's also a part of me that thinks, okay, but this cannot work. It's impossible. But I think the best way to approach this is to try to experiment and see if it works. Over time, whenever someone tries to implement this, they get impressive results in terms of trust, in terms of people perceiving themselves are more important, and that they were learning and growing as a person, and not just as a machine, as a cog, as something, another piece in the industry. Thank you for your answer, Christoph. For a question. Anyone?
Douglas, may I? Regina here.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I can. Okay. Now I found you. Hi,
okay.
Regina. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm fine. Maybe just to complement the issue that Christoph was talking about, I think that it might be a misconception that we think people that work in jobs that may be more repetitive or even less paid, that they don't have their own opinions how things could be done better. I think they are used to not speak up because they work in these kind of organizations Douglas was talking about, the orange ones or the red ones, where you have a clear hierarchical structure and you're not allowed, or it's not opportune to say, okay, I would do it this way or that way. And as Douglas said, sometimes it's not the time to discuss things in emergency situations or whatever it is. But I think the nursing company he was talking about is a perfect example, right? Because nurses are not very well paid in our system, but they did something like that. And I think Douglas was talking about maybe this Kaizen thing in automobile companies. These were workers that normally work at these production streets. I don't know the correct word in English. And normally you would say, okay, they're doing every day the same thing, and what can you expect there? But when they, I think Toyota came up with that first, implemented this Kaizen. So it had nothing to do with holocracy, but people were asked, the workers, how can we work better together? And they broke up these orange system, and they really said, wow, it's working really better if we ask the people that are doing the job, right? So I think sometimes we have this misconception that people that have a lower salary, that they don't have ideas, or that they leave their brain somewhere at the entrance or something, right? But of course, I think people are not used to work in this kind of different system or different way. But I think if there's a development within the company, and that helps people to adapt to this more, I would say, evolved kind of working, where they can develop themselves, where they can work in different ways, different roles, and so on. If you support people, I think they're really, it will be surprising how people are able to adapt to that, right? So just that.
Yeah, thank you, Regina. I think that really adds up, and it's interesting because whenever you start applying those things to the ground floor, you just to give an example, again in Favi, but this one really caught my eye. There was this boy, this little boy, he was like 18, 19 years old, just starting the company. He couldn't read properly, he couldn't talk properly, but his line manager, and I would say manager here just because of a lack of a better word, but his manager noticed that, okay, he's different, he wants to do something else. And then he started helping him out, you know? Hey man, listen, you like this book? Wanna read this book? Oh, yeah, sure, give it to me. And then he started learning, reading, writing, and after a year or so, he was more confident in himself. And then, okay, I want to do a different job. I want to go around all other companies and see what's the best strategies and technologies that they're doing. And I'll come back here and I'm gonna teach you guys. And okay, there's no rule for that. So okay, everyone, do you agree with that? Do you think that he's able to do that? Yeah, sure. So he started doing this job. And you get really good surprises when you apply something like this. And don't even need to be holacracy, as you were saying. Just by letting people speak and letting themselves do what they want to do, it just helps a lot.
Hi.
Hi, Marcelo.
Why do you say holocracy instead of democracy?
Because I think holocracy, democracy, first of all, it's a misconception. The word is stigmatized, and we need it, as long as we need it, whenever we have a word that has already a lot of background on that. You need to create a new word to address the need. So when you say holocracy, you're saying that the power is distributed amongst everyone. So it's not that you're gonna give the power to the people. You don't have to give power to the people. That's my thing. That's my first misalignment with democracy. So when you say the word holacracy, the power is amongst everyone. And it's not just the people, it's everyone, including helpers and everyone associated with the project itself. So, and Holo also tries to get the idea that you can be whole in the organization. You can be full with your thinking, all of your thoughts synced, you know, you have your thoughts, you have your emotions, you have your energy, you have your past, your background, your previous experiences. You don't have to cut yourself to do that work. So the prefix holo, or the radical holo, encompasses all of that.
Okay, right, thank you.
No worries, thank you for your question. Yes. Hi, Arn. How you doing, man? Well, yeah, I'm glad that you asked about it. I'm not sure if we can work with politics yet with holacracy, but mainly because of how things are done today. But if we could make politics work like this, I think we would be in a complete different society. So as a personal note, I would love to see that in action. And I would love to try to test this in practice. It works. So we can test this in small communities and so on. Because there are other models of democracy that try to address the questions of distributing the power. You can see that in Podemos in Spain. You see the pure democracy model proposed by Professor Jarbas. But they have flaws because they always want this thing about, okay, we need to reach a consensus. And there's always this blame game that I'm pretty positive you faced as well. For instance, when you say, oh, it's hard to be it's tough to be a boss, it's tough to have the responsibility on your shoulders, and it's very easier to say, okay, tell me what to do, and then you do it. Because everything fails. It's so simple. It was his idea, not mine. Oh, he told me to do it. So I think it's whenever you move to this model, this holacracy model, there's no more space for blaming. There's no space for victimhood. Oh, poor me! I cannot answer for my actions. I cannot have an opinion. No, you can have an opinion. You have what you have to say, and you do it because okay, you have an idea. You want to do something, do it. And if something goes wrong, it's all right, but it's your responsibility. So, and when you work like this as a society, I think it would be a great experiment. Because imagine that you have all the problems that you have to face. You have to work with education, to work with health, to work on maintenance of the streets, and all sorts of different holes that you have here. And you can create those structures so the society itself, it self-organizes to try to solve those issues. You don't need a politics, you don't need someone there that is receiving your money to try to change those things. So you can use a system like this. So it's like more, imagine that this is a self-manageable housing units that people can have more control and action of what needs to be done. You don't have like a manager that, but you have a lot of people, a lot of groups that, okay, I want to go inside that group and start working with this. Then go there and do it. You don't need to have a title. You don't need to have a doctor degree, a PhD. You just need to show for people that you are needed there. And then you can enter. So I think that's a great idea, a great question that you proposed, and I would be very, very happy to see that in action. Unfortunately, I don't have any examples on that. Yes. Well, if you're talking, just I'm gonna give my ideas, and if anyone wants to follow afterwards, just grab the mic and start talking. So I think that's very possible. It's a very possible situation to work in conscientiology with this. If you go back a couple of decades, like in the 90s or 1992, in the beginning of IIP, Professor Valdo implemented a lot of processes that they were very similar to the holocratic approach. Like, for instance, oh, you had an idea. You had an idea. Go there and do it. I don't know how to do it. No worries. Ask for the person around here what they think should be done. Include that in your idea and go there for yourself. So, and there was more room for improvement, for people doing stuff. So how I would think that this could be implemented in our organization in conscientiology. For instance, the bridge, I think, and the system that you guys have, it would be a good experimentation ground for this, because you have people all across the world. You have people in Brazil, you have people in Germany, you have people in London, you have people in Australia, in a lot of different places. So, okay, we cannot manage everything, we cannot control everything, but do we want to? So instead of having a central command, like, okay, this is the ISAAC's president, and then you have the ISAAC coordinators across the globe. No, it's not like that. So you would have structures like this. So, okay, guys, whenever you want to implement a cell of the ISAAC model, there are some roles that needs to be done. So you have someone to prepare the room. You have someone to talk with people around to see what they want to talk about. Oh, have some people that are responsible to see what kind of articles people are writing. So you have a lot of different roles out there. And those small roles and the circles, the subcircles and the super circles, they would grow naturally based on people's needs. So for instance, imagine that we're talking about translation, right? Translation would be just translating, right? Translating from one language to the other would be one of those little balls here, one role. But sometimes you need more people. So, okay, guys, I need someone else to help me in this translation role. Does anyone have free time or are interested in that? Oh, yes, I am. Please add this to my current responsibilities and assignments. Okay, great. So people can get decoupled as well from that title or that role. They would see the roles as means to help the organization to achieve its own goals. That I think for an institution like ISAAC, for instance, forgive me if I'm doing a mistake here, or even the bridge of reapprehension, their main goal is to try to get the best as they can, the ideas that everyone had in their intermissive course, and try to apply it here, adapting to our own to our new somas, to our new cultures, our new societies, and see how we can, okay, we wanted to do this, but this is the astrophysical world, what actually we can do today. And then you change. And since the worlds keep changing, this plane needs to change as well. So it's not like you have, okay, this is the Serenissimus, and those are the evoluciologists. Okay, we have this super massive plan, and then you have a lot of people, the helpers that are going to help us here, and you have a lot of people that are going to implement the ideas of this Serenissimus. It's not like that. At least I don't remember being like this. I remember something that is participative, that's everybody has a voice, and you hear and ask for advice of people that knows more about that than you. And you grow in the process. Oh, great. I never thought about that angle. I never thought about that point. So good. I will insert that. Thanks. And whenever you do this, people feel that they are heard and they can do something good about it. But let me shut up and leave for others to talk what they think about this subject.
I would like to ask another question. I see that this may work very well in companies. On a larger scale, globally, those companies are in competition with each other, like, let's say, warships or alliances. And now we have, I mean, roughly spoken, we have a kind of a world hierarchy also among these competing companies and powers. Do you see ways how this new model, when it's implemented in more and more companies and organizations, could transpire to this broader level, maybe globally, so that we change from extreme competition to a system that is more like this system, more cooperation and need-oriented?
Good question. From what I've seen, it's not that they see this as competition. They don't see the world, although we have limited resources, they don't have the mentality of having limited resources. So for instance, if you ask Jos de Bloor, the founder of Buzzword, to implement, oh, I want to create Buzzword in my country, I want to create Buzzword in my whatever, okay, he goes there and help. The same thing for Favi, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm mistaking both of them right now. But they don't see others as a threat. The more, the merrier. If people around the globe think like they are thinking right now, they have a clear picture in their head that the world is going to be a better place in a couple of decades. So they don't see this as a competition. There's no market to fight for. Because if you imagine that you, forget about the company itself right now. Imagine that you have a set of needs and set of people trying to address those needs. As long as there are people that can address the second group, there will be a role for them. There will be a reason for them to exist as a role. If the role doesn't need anymore, is not needed anymore, people change. People evolve. Okay, I don't want that role anymore. Let me find a new thing to do. So they can keep evolving over time.
Okay.
Anyone else?
This may sound counterintuitive for you.
It sounds good on first hearing, but when I look at the money system as it is designed, it forces us to make more and more resources, living and debt resources into money. And this is, for me, a total contradiction to a model like this, which is based on sharing and friendliness. So I see a collision there, and I see the chance that when people get, by practicing this kind of new system organization approach, that they change their consciousness, and that they also at one point might get conscious of the problem that money poses as a barrier for implementing this really deeply. And then maybe the money rules can be changed. But as long as we have these money rules, maybe those organizations that keep this pyramid structure and this warship-like thinking, they might have better chances sometimes against these friendly software companies. I'm not sure how this will go, but it looks like a battle to me.
It's a good question. I don't have examples of organizations that they are TEO, that they have those values and they broke out of those values. It's like, okay, now things are turning bad. Let's go back to the previous way we were doing stuff. I don't have examples of that, because usually whenever someone goes TEO, it doesn't go back. Oh, wait, there is one example of one company that was working as a TEO company. It went back operating as an orange, and then it went bankruptcy. So they were working fine. They were leading the market. It was everything okay but then it changed the people in the top, you know, oh, now we're not doing this anymore. Now we're doing this my way. And then things get ugly. But it's interesting to see this happening more and more often, because whenever you're talking about a tier organization, Christoph, it's people are not interested in making money. Although money is important, I'm totally for money, you know, but their main focus is not that. So for instance, I want money so I can have an hashtag and I can focus on micro-access. That's the goal. It's not, and it is similar to them. Oh, they don't want, money is a means for them so they can change the world. It's not that you want someone, imagine that you have like those, have you seen, oh my God, what's the name of that movie? The Office. If people have seen The Office, I totally suggest you guys to do it. It's a funny movie. But there is those guys that they operate completely in the amber/orange paradigm, where they want to control it. They want to do everything that you are explaining. And what happens to the company is a very funny succession of events that tries to explain this that you're asking. And when you say, oh, there are no resources, we're fighting for resources, we're fighting for this, we're fighting for that. Maybe if we're talking about petrol, diamonds, soil, all those things, they are limited. But there are a whole different range of fields that they do not have that limitation very much. They're not that bounded by resources, you know?
I think, first of all, thank you. It's been really, really interesting, and my mind is spinning right now. But I think when it comes to smaller companies, to startups, it's definitely easier for them to go in this direction, right? When we think of the big Titanics like the multinationals, I think it's challenging due to that we have stakeholders who are interested in money, due to that we have 150,000 employees across the globe, due to the competition that we have across the globe. But I think that starting with the smaller companies, seeing the success or seeing the results hopefully will inspire other companies to go in this direction. But do you see that ultimately all the companies across the globe and the whole of society will operate according to Holocracy?
I think in time, they will operate in something like this or better. Thanks a lot, Evelyn, for coming over, like a question. And I think I thought the same thing that you are questioning me right now until I read the example of AES. AES is a industry generation company. Oh, no, it's energy generation company that they provide energy. So they have a lot of plants across the globe, and they have millions of consumers, and they have thousands, like 40,000 employees. They are not on this list, but they have 40,000 employees across the globe. And they don't have a central office that tells everyone what they need to do. Each plant, it is designed to work on its own. For instance, there was one man in one of the companies in the US, and he was analyzing his previous country, and you know what? I think we can open a factory there. I think we can open one of our own there and start producing energy and sell it. So he went there, he went for the banks, he looked for the financial support for this, created the industry, start operating, and then they're making money. So I agree that it might be very easier to work in a small team like Bootsbot, like Favi. You know what? They have 500 people, 800 people. It's fine. For instance, whenever you have a company like that, you can just step on a small bench and, okay, let me talk right now. I have this idea. But when you're talking about 40,000 people, that's a whole new level. But there are ways to work with this. So they are not bounded by the number of employees, neither the number of clients that rely on them to work. But it's a great question. If you want to look for this company later, the name is AES. Sergio, do you still have time?
I think we still have time for one last question, and then we have to proceed to close the talking and give some messages, okay?
Hello, Douglas, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, this is Melanie. Hey, it was a really great talk. Thanks so much. There were a lot of questions regarding the future or like how it's going to develop. So could you maybe just for also conclusion comment on holocracy and the world state? Because I think those two are connected. But maybe you could elaborate how the two work together or how one can lead or support the other two.
Can you
to arrive at the world.
Can you repeat, please? I could not understand what you were asking.
Okay. There were a lot of questions regarding the development of holocracy and companies and money state, and because now in the current society it's hard to imagine. But within conscientiology, we're talking about the world state. We are going towards the world state. So could you explain about the role of holocracy in the development to the world state?
Yes, I can try. So when you're talking about world state, you're talking about no borders, you're talking about no countries, you're talking about all those bureaucracies and all those things that make us different and that creates barriers that do not allow us to be in our full capacity. So if we do not have that anymore, the differences will be smaller. People will notice that they have more in common than they have more in difference. And if you talk about this type of government in the future, in the very future, okay, what can we do today that can better help us move into that direction? And that's where I think holocracy might better work. Because, you're talking about organizations, you talk about companies, NGOs, everything where people organize themselves to solve problems. And the more you create companies like that, the more you create companies, okay, there's a need in the world, and I want to understand and to help the world solve that need in a different way. I want to do something that is ethical. I want to do something that has my values on it. I want to do something that is connected to my extra physical reality. So when we create those companies, it will little by little show to people that this self-organizing ways of dealing with everyone, it's possible. Oh, look, there's this company that this other one. So over time, the idea will start popping in people's head. Wait a minute, do we need a government? Do we need a boundary? Do we need this? Do we need that? And they would kind of start questioning the basis of our society as we know today. And for the results of those organizations, those tier organizations, I think it's a faster way to get into that direction. And when I say a faster way, it's not decades, I'm talking about centuries. But I think it's a good start, So you start gathering people that think alike, not just in one location, but across the globe, and they can replicate those ideas. So people know it works, and they can start doing that on their own. So I think both of them are very well connected. Thank you very much for your question, because I think it really matches. It's really a next step with all of it.
Okay, So I know that the subject is really interesting, is really fascinating. It's very fertile soil, so we can reap lots of benefits. But we have come to the time to close the event. But before, we're going to do a little energetic practice, okay? So I ask all of you right now to relax. Take a deep breath. And then now you can close your eyes. Now, gently put all of your attention, all of your focus, all your concentration on the top of your head. Concentrate all of your energy in this area of your body. Now, slowly drive it down. Drive it down. Try to feel it in and out of your body. Slide it down. Bring it down until the end of your feet. Once in the end of your feet, drive it up, up, until the very top of your head. Repeat the process. Gently accelerate. Give a final boost in your acceleration, accelerating the energy movement to its maximum speed possible. Keep it up for more a few seconds. Yes, now we can slowly stop this movement. Now we're going to expand. Think of each and every part of your body expanding the energy, sending all the energies to this field. All at the same time in a continuous flow. Now in pulses, like a twinkling star. Now, slowly stopping this maneuver, slowly stopping. And then absorb, by the power of your will, absorb with your whole holosoma the energies. Keep it up. Okay, now slowly we can stop this maneuver as well. And everybody, welcome back to our virtual room, okay? Is everybody okay? Evelyn, okay? Melanie? Marcelo, Christoph, Regina, okay, Eduardo, Carol, Yatra. So that's it. Once again, we would like to thank you so much for your presence here. And we are announcing now the next The Bridge encounter. It will be in October. The exact date is not still defined, but the lecturer will be the researcher Virginia Ruiz. It will be in Spanish. She has been living in Brazil for quite a long time and is also a volunteer for us, okay? So now with my colleagues located in Foz do Iguaçu, any other final message? Okay? Thanks to the lecturer. Thanks everybody. You're all very welcome.
Thanks a lot, everyone. You're awesome. I liked all your questions.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Douglas.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.